Raider Zone Weekly. Vince Calautti, Ryan Smith, Steve Kandray, and Billy Hassinger. Good evening and welcome. This is Raider Zone Weekly. I'm Billy Hassinger, Vince Calautti, Steve Kandray, and Ryan Smith with me as always. As we got the world back in order here. I think I got the machine fixed to where it won't be all screwy tonight.
Let's hope so.
And
whoa, this is cool. I'm currently on the Sepek Takra website, which we'll talk about later. But
say, Vince, don't spoil anything right now. Don't spoil anything here early. And Steve is back on his own side, so I got my entire side back on my own.
That's unbelievable.
Our first time. Hey, guys. Focus here.
Oh, look, Sepak Takraw, as the listeners will come to find out, is a fascinating and sport that has an amazing website. It's not our fault that we were sucked in to the siren call of Sepak Takraw.
Beautiful graphics. Unbelievable.
I'm sorry, Bill. We're only human over here.
Sorry.
My bad.
Man,
back on track. Here we go.
I haven't even started our first topic, and it's already Distraction City over here. First topic of the night, Roddy White speaking out this week about Roger Goodell's salary, as Goodell will make $20 million per season by the end of his current contract, and Roddy White not too happy about it.
Really? Okay. How much does Roddy White make?
He just signed a contract for about $6 years for $48 million.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
he signed,
New extension.
In 2009, he signed a 6-year, $50 million extension, so...
I don't see why he's complaining. I just don't. I think it's a little ridiculous. I understand he's making $20 million, but he's the commissioner of the NFL. It's his job to be the bad guy to them, and his job to make sure everything goes okay. He's not David Stern, who can veto a trade at any point in time, so I guess I wouldn't really be complaining about that. But come on, I mean, you're making much more money than he is. Be quiet. And do a better fantasy. If you look at
making less money.
If you look at overall, though, from what he's already had before, he's going to make more overtime than what Goodell was. What Goodell will in the end. If you look at an overall career arc by the end of it, he got a contract extension, right?
Yeah.
So you add the money that he's
I don't
already
know if
made.
I believe that. Either way,
don't complain about it. He's your commissioner. Be quiet. You talk when you produce a better fantasy season for my team.
Anyway. The thing that sort of struck me about this story was Roddy White's actual tweet. So I will read it right now because I was thoroughly confused by what he was trying to say.
Be careful, sir. Be careful, because I have the tweet right in front of me as well. Be careful.
Be careful. There's no cursing in there or anything. Unless we have different versions.
Go ahead with the tweet.
I think Billy thinks I'm going to make things up over here. Roger Goodell is getting over never seen anything like it $20 million for looking over the league with tremendous help I guess the NFL is banking. Period. The NFL is not a company. It's a non-profit organization that makes a lot of profit.
Okay, that's a different quote.
Oh,
different one than what I had.
This was one of the ones.
Yeah, I saw both tweets on ESPN.
This was the only one that
I was
saw.
referring to that one where he's talking about how can you pay a man this much money that can't run, tackle, or catch. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, referring to the quote that I just said, first of all, and this is the one that I saw on ESPN's website, what are you talking about, Roddy? And second of all, yeah, okay, you cannot tackle, catch, or do anything, but that's all you do. I don't understand how you can say that a man who's literally running this multi-billion-dollar organization should be paid less than a guy who's running around the field. I mean, let's put it in perspective. If Roddy White leaves the NFL, nobody cares. Well, a few people would care, but very few people. If Roger Goodell leaves the NFL, it would be a major, major story, and there'd be a huge shift.
Ryan, go ahead and get a quick 2 cents in.
All right, well, I mean, I kind of agree, I think Roddy White vehemently talks about himself on Twitter, and his tweets are very well known. But I mean, Roger Goodell runs the league. I mean, Roddy White was complaining about, he doesn't catch the ball or he doesn't tackle. Well, without the commissioner ending the lockout and agreeing with the sides and being the middleman, he would not be catching anything this past season. So I mean, $20 million is a bit much for the commissioner, but it's well earned.
Bottom line: produce better before you talk. You ruined my fantasy season. You know what?
Never fails. Vince always has to give bloop in about his fantasy team.
Exactly.
Moving on to our next topic in the NBA, we're actually going to scratch the first part of this topic and not talk about Kyrie Irving right now because we're going to talk about him later on in the show. That was my fault. Forgot to edit that part out after last night. But the Chicago Bulls getting some very good news as Derrick Rose's back has no structural damage, which could be very important for the team that has the best record in the NBA.
Yeah, that's extremely important. He's their engine that makes that team run. While they've done okay while he's gone, they're a great defensive team without him. They just can't get it. They will not be able to get it done in the playoffs against the better league competition in these games without him. We saw last year how he carried that team to the Eastern Conference Finals, and we saw again that one-man show in the NBA anymore cannot carry a team. So, but to put him back, be that one-man show again, he went pretty far. So this is extremely important for the Bulls that they need him back. They need him running that team again because when he was in there, they were humming and they were very good.
Vince, I completely agree with everything that you've just said. I think that he's definitely the centerpiece for this entire Bulls team. I think he's going to make a huge difference. Obviously, if you take away arguably the best player on one of the best teams in basketball, it's going to make a huge difference. But I think that the main thing to focus on in this story is that there's no structural damage to his back. I think that's the main thing, that there's not hopefully going to be any real residual damage. If there was actual structural damage, who knows? I mean, it could have thrown a huge loop in them. I mean, it could have ended his career. We saw what's going on with Peyton Manning in the NFL. Some of these injuries, I mean, especially to the back or the spinal column, could be extremely serious. So I think that's probably the main thing for Derrick Rose's career and for the Bulls in general, is that there's no real structural damage.
Yeah, I think the good thing about that is, though, the Bulls do have the MVP of the league right now, and he is their point guard. He is their quarterback on the floor. But one thing about the Bulls, they've been able to play very well without him. I mean, they've won the past 2 games that they've had without him, and granted, they haven't played the greatest of teams, but John Lucas pulled up from the D-League doing a very nice job, even though LeBron kind of hopped over top of him like nothing and dunked over him. But he's doing a very good job running the point. Like you guys said, they're a very defensive team, and that defense does win championships. You know, they have the best record in the NBA, and I think they could do fine without Derrick Rose, but right now they need him.
As like you mentioned, Derrick Rose, the reigning MVP of the NBA, and even though they have been playing good ball without him, it's going to be huge when they get him back and he's at 100%, because that team is pretty scary with Derrick Rose.
5 Undivided.
As I was able to figure out the machine from last week and what it was messing all up.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, no kidding, that was driving me nuts last week. Moving on to our first 5 Undivided topic of the night, college football, as it has become official. The Mountain West and Conference USA are going to form a giant conference with 18 to 24 teams in 2013-2014.
So, according to a few websites I checked out, the main driving initiative behind combining both of these was, number one, combine their resources so that they can get a TV contract. Obviously, they have so much more teams and money, so it'll be easier for them to negotiate some type of contract. And number two, to try and get a BCS bid. My only problem with both these reasons is they're already going to lose a lot of teams. I mean, we've already seen some bids coming in from the Big East, said that they're going to target some teams. And I noticed on this you put 18 to 24 teams, which is probably pretty accurate. It could be as low as 18 or as high as 24, depending on what teams choose to leave. But my whole problem with this is, especially in the idea of getting a BCS bid, is that they haven't really improved their standing as a conference. Yeah, they're a lot bigger, but there's not really that quality. I mean, you just combine 2 lower level conferences into one giant lower level. It's not like you combine both these together and suddenly they're a powerhouse. It doesn't work where you take the Mountain West and Conference USA and equals the Big 12. It just doesn't work like that. So I think maybe they can get a BCS bid just through the sheer number of teams, but overall, I mean, it doesn't change a whole lot.
Yeah, I think I would consider them, a bigger conference now, but I still wouldn't put them as a power conference by any means, because if you look at the top 3 teams in the projected combining of the league as of last year's records, you're looking at Air Force, Southern Miss, and Marshall. If those are the top 3 teams that are vying for a BCS bowl bid, there's a little bit of a difficult situation there. I mean, Southern Miss, granted, they went 10-2 last year.
It's probably better than the Big East.
Yeah, I mean, well, West Virginia at least came out and proved something that they're
in the Big 12 now.
Yeah, nonetheless.
Which we will talk about later.
Yeah.
But it's not really, I wouldn't call them a power conference at all, because if Southern Miss goes up against the Wisconsins of the world that might not get the BCS championship game bid but get a BCS bowl bid, they're probably going to get slaughtered. Now, granted, that's right now, they might get some better recruiting with this bigger conference and more TV time, more notoriety, but I don't think that they're going to be a major factor down the road.
I'm going to take I'm going to take a different view on this, not the opposite view, but a different view on this.
All right, a different perspective.
Yeah, different
Finally.
perspective. This is not, I'm not going to talk about how this is not a good lower team. This is the beginning of the end of these conferences as we know them right now. This is going to start pushing towards these bigger leagues where people are combining together and forming large super conferences. This is the first super conference that we've seen. Even though it's a lower tiered super conference, this is going to be the basic model that you can see people coming through and saying, this looks interesting, let's take this. We've already had that combining with the Big Ten, talking about doing a 4-team playoff themselves and having their own little championship game and then inviting somebody else to come play their champion and doing that. So you have these different conferences coming up now. So this is going to be a basic model of looking, going, these are huge teams, how are they going to do this? And the other big names, big conference is going to look like the Big Ten. They're going to sit back and then go, we can tweak that, take other teams, poach them, make themselves into a super conference, start running their own things, and then we may end up getting a playoff system that we want much sooner than what people are expecting.
A couple teams that actually are joining the Mountain West here in the next couple of years. One being Nevada, they were taking the route, leaving the WAC and following Boise State to the Mountain West, but now Boise State's jumping ship again and heading to the Big East, which makes absolutely no sense, as neither does San Diego State joining there. But nonetheless, Hawaii even talk about moving to the Mountain West. So there are some teams that looks like they could do something in this big super conference should they come about. But really, what's the only thing that really matters here is that these teams are everything's going here is just looking for this.
Thank you so much, Jesse Mead, for playing the money clip.
I love the money clip. I think we should make it mandatory. They should play once a week for no apparent reason.
You know, I have another thing that I've sort of noticed is, you know, most of this is behind getting a BCS bid, which wouldn't matter if we had a playoff system.
Exactly. And this is these groups trying to catch up, and now all of a sudden we're going, hey, we're going to do a +1 system. You're out.
It's silly.
You know, the BCS is in such turmoil right now. Nobody likes it except for the SEC because they just keep on winning it year in and year out.
That's why nobody likes it.
And so it's ridiculous. They just need to get rid of it altogether. Had the playoff system.
The bowl system is interesting too because they're losing money on the bowl system. Probably the first time that they've ever really thought they've lost money on the bowl system.
Moving on to baseball now, as it came out this week that the Rays have signed their manager Joe Maddon to a 3-year extension, and Joe Maddon is kind of old as dirt. He's up in his upper 70s now, getting up there in age. So
he's kind of old as dirt.
I didn't say kind of. I said he is old as dirt.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that doesn't matter, though.
Nonetheless, though, is this a good move for the Rays to re-sign their manager?
I think it's a great move. Personally, I mean, you look at what Jack McKeon did with the Marlins in 2003. You know, the guy was 72 years old, and he won a national championship, a World Series title.
National championship.
It's a national championship. It's a World Series title, though, nonetheless.
That's a world championship.
We're just messing with you. Keep going.
Ryan, you have my permission to backhand Steve, if you please.
He's diminishing the value of the World Series, calling it a national championship.
Mr.
When it is
I
not
don't
a national
like
championship.
baseball.
It is a world
Yeah,
championship.
it's considered
Anyway,
a world championship.
Something relevant Steve has to say about baseball. What a shock.
Anyway, I think Joe Maddon is a really good manager. You know, the Rays went from absolute obscurity, even with a good manager like Lou Piniella. Now that they've got a lot of talent, Joe Maddon brings up the right guys from the minors. He knows the system. He's a player's coach, and even though he's up there in age, he still knows the game and he still knows what to do. And the Rays have been a team in contention for the past 4 years.
That's the key right there. They've been a team in contention. They brought in Lou Piniella. They thought he would be good developing young players. It didn't work out. They bring in Joe Maddon, and he's had a great connection with these young guys. A lot of these guys coming up through this Tampa system, we know they've had a few problems. B.J. Upton had some issues. We know. I know Maddon was. I know he was before Maddon's time, but you had Josh Hamilton in there who had who had issues as well coming through. So those are just examples of some of the guys. But you take a look through this. He knows how to connect with his players. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to coach, particularly in the American East, where you've got Boston and the Yankees who can just outspend everybody and do that, as much as Boston fans claim they don't, but they do. And so to be even in contention against those guys and really make playoffs 2 of the last 4 years, it's a great move to sign him. And I think as long as he stays healthy, he stays fit and working out with these guys, I think he'll be okay in the long run health-wise.
Steve's
input was that the World Series is a world championship, which is true.
I gave my input. I don't know why you're still looking at me. Look, the World Series is a world championship. You can't call it a national championship.
Oh.
It is the championship of the world.
Yeah,
that is my input on
Toronto's
this.
involved, so that makes it a world championship.
Well, it's not necessarily a world championship. It would be a North American championship.
Yeah, the Japan leagues.
Yeah,
Are you
but-
serious right now?
I mean, that's where Ichiro came from, and Darvish.
We really, for some reason, we really stink at these
All right,
World Baseball
but
Classics.
That's true. That was a failed idea, I think.
Well, here's the thing, though. Players from all over the world play in the what was I gonna say, in the MLB.
In the NBA.
Never mind. I just derailed that train.
Steve.
Baseball players from all over the world play in the NBA. Let's get real.
Oh,
Darvish, power forward.
Oh, it's hard to keep focused after that. But nonetheless, moving on back to the NFL.
Just wait till Sepak Takraw.
Yes.
As Randy Moss has announced that he would like to return to the NFL should any team show interest in him. And the thing I got to ask is, why would you want to return to the NFL when the last season you were there, you were traded for nothing from New England to Minnesota, released by Minnesota, picked up by the Titans on waivers, and did absolutely nothing?
Well, I mean, this is Randy Moss we're talking about. We're talking about the ultimate quitter here. This guy, whenever he feels motivated, he'll go out and he'll be amazing. He will outdo anybody. But now you have him sitting there and going, and when he basically got mad at the end of the season. He goes, "You know what? I'm retired. Forget you guys." And he comes back. He's like, "I'm not retired anymore because I want to play again." So far, he's got a contract offer from the Indoor Football League, Chicago. All right, Indoor Football League really way to show up. Terrell Owens and then Randy Moss.
Imagine the two of them on the same field at the same time in an Indoor Football League.
But the problem right now you got is he's an older player who never really they made a good point. He never really learned to run routes. As he got older, all he was is a deep threat. And Bill Polian claims he's lost a step. There's not going to be anybody who's really going to take him on, much like T.O. Too many. Not as much of a headache issue as T.O. with arguing with players, as much as just a quitter and someone who does behind-the-scenes things that really bugs people, and that's why he gets cut and traded.
Well, here's
he
the thing
quits too much.
You bring up the comparison of T.O. and Randy Moss, and I think one of the main differences is that T.O. is in much better shape at this point in his career. I mean, he's a workout freak. He's still in very good shape. And Randy Moss, I mean, I think the best way to put it is he's just kind of lazier. He's motivated by his own personal interest. He used to be really good because he had a step on everybody else. He didn't have to work at it as much. But now he's later in his career. He doesn't have that extra step. And like you said, he's not a technical good wide receiver. The only reason he was good was because he was big and he was physical. And he used to be the most dangerous receiver on the field, but he's not in that position anymore.
He's like Plexico Burris. He can run straight down the middle,
he
stick
can
his
run,
hands up in the air and catch the
He's
ball.
tall and he's fast, but he's not quite as fast anymore. So I say, getting back to the discussion that you brought up, I say you pick T.O. over Randy Moss if you're going to bring anybody back to the NFL.
I think you pick neither.
Well, I'm just saying, if you get stuck in that.
They're both second all time in touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that Randy Moss does not belong in the NFL again because he was with 3 different teams in 2010, and he gave up on all 3. Every team that attempted to give him a chance, he said he wanted to go back to the Patriots, and he did, and he still didn't do well. I mean, it just is one of those things where he's getting out of the back end of his career. It's not about the money. He still wants to play, which, I mean, it might be about the money still because he might be spending on everything we don't know, but he has lost his step. I mean, you're going up against the Andre Johnsons of the world who are size-wise comparable to him, but also run a 4.4 40 compared to his new probably 4.7 40 being like 35 years old.
They can run short and intermediate routes. Calvin Johnson is one of the best going over the middle. You've never seen Randy Moss go over the middle. It's always an outside the numbers, straight down the field, throw the ball to me, I'll make that one-handed catch, and talk about it.
Well, I mean, when you get the size of Calvin Johnson, he's 6'5", like 230 pounds, and he's built.
Yeah, but
it's going to be tough to bring him down when he goes across the middle.
Yeah, but I mean, you even talk about Larry Fitzgerald will go over the middle. You see him as a primary speed receiver. That was just Moss's thing, straight down. He never learned anything else.
Moving on, it's time for our cheers of the week, and we're going to stay right here at Mount Union as the women's basketball team, with the win last night, clinched the outright OAC regular season title and are currently number 1 in the Great Lakes region as we near the OAC tournament and get ready for the national tournament. So
18 straight wins. That's ridiculous. Handed BW their first home loss of the year, and it's a veteran team. All starters are seniors and juniors. There's no one really younger that's really starting. They come in off the bench to get some time, get as substitutes and such, but it's a senior team that's worked together well for the past 3 years now. Coming in, Rosa LaMatina 2 weeks ago went off with 22 points, I think like 10 assists. She just went ridiculous, and they pulled out that win against Otterbein coming in, but won last night by 5 or so. So 18 straight is a really good new school record. Just great for them being number 1 in the region. They're going to be a very tough team to defeat, particularly because of all the veteran leadership that they have.
Well, you bring up the fact there's so many veterans, and I think that's maybe even an understatement. I don't remember if it's 3 or 4, but they have a lot of members on the 1,000-point club at Mount Union. I think is it 3?
It's 3
now.
Okay.
Amanda Rose, LaMatina, and Corey Wheat.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 3 players. I mean, normally you get 1 every every couple of years, or even, a large span. But you have 3,000-point club members all on the same team. I mean, this is definitely probably the best, maybe the best Mount Union women's team ever. So I think they're going to make a deep run. And the nice thing about being ranked number 1 in the region is they do have a legitimate shot of getting 2 home playoff games in the national tournament, which would be huge.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are talking about the veteran leadership. I think one thing that's really contributed to them is the play off the bench. They have 2 freshmen, Amanda Tamerlano and Allie Daniel, who come in the post and play very well with the minutes they give. They're very productive, and they do a great job down there. And it's one thing, to have a lot of senior leadership, but whenever you get into foul trouble late in games or have more physical matchups, it's good to have those young quicker players off the bench, and Coach Bennett likes to kind of sub in 5 at a time, like a Chinese fire drill sort of, and then it works very well for her.
She's got no problem subbing everybody out if they're not doing well.
There's been 2 games where everybody on the roster has played, and that's very impressive.
And people who aren't even on the regular roster play.
That's true.
I remember, Ryan and I were calling a game.
Ago,
yeah, Ryan and I were calling a game. Vince and I were calling a game a few weeks ago, and I was commenting how Coach Bennett was putting in everybody, because I have the normal roster, but she was pulling people off the JV who were dressing.
I have the list. I'm giving it to him. He's like, I don't know how to say this name, and then he couldn't pronounce the other person's name of the other team, Madge or something.
Here's the real scary thing about it. They don't have Brittany Kilgore with their complete ACL tear. They've been doing that without really a solid post presence. So
Amanda Rose has gotten it done inside, and that's not her natural position.
Next year, with her coming back, this is going to be a scary team, and especially with the way Coach Bennett has been able to recruit players over the last couple of years. When Vince and I were freshmen, they were a 4 seed in the OAC tournament. They've won it the last 2 years, and this year they look like they're geared up for a deep run in the national tournament. Moving on to our Jeers of the Week, it was announced yesterday or today, I can't remember. I'm very saddened by this. Blake Griffin is not defending his slam dunk title. The reason it saddens me is because he is electrifying to watch.
Depression hurts.
He is the best dunker in basketball right now. Why would you not want to be in the slam dunk contest?
Same thing with LeBron. They never understood why LeBron did not want to be in the dunk contest.
You know who did the dunk contest? Michael Jordan. That's why he's the best. Not like you, Blake Griffin. You're not the best because you're not going to man up and be in the dunk contest.
And he's got a funny personality, too. He's got a very dry sense of humor. If you've seen his commercials, I would just love to see him dunk and just stare at the crowd like this with his very serious face as he dunks the ball.
I mean, is it all injury? Is that what they're afraid of? Or do they just not want to put forth the effort?
I don't know. I mean,
it's a relaxation weekend for a lot of them. And I think that's what he wants after this shortened season, probably.
I'm so sorry that you have to go to a dunk contest. That must be so stressful.
I mean, come on, you jumped over a car last year. Unless you're launching yourself out of a cannon or something, I don't think you're going to get hurt doing this.
But now the highlight of the dunk contest for me, Iman Shumpert is going to dunk for the Knicks. That's not the highlight. It's the fact that Jeremy Lin will be assisting him.
Yes.
That is going to be amazing. I mean, no Blake Griffin, but you know what? There's going to be some Lin sanity. I might be dreaming, a little bit of Linception going on, but nonetheless, it's pretty nice.
The other thing that you got to look at, though, too, with Blake Griffin coming out, you knew he would ask Chris Paul to do it. And you could just see Chris Paul doing some weird dribble thing and all of a sudden throw it off like some vendor's face, and then all of a sudden the ball bounces back and Blake Griffin just does a triple reverse slam or something like that. Just the fact of seeing Chris Paul giving assist to him as he's dunking would have been sweet to see, but no, you got to be selfish.
I mean, Blake Griffin, I love last year when he was in the dunk contest, he had some ridiculous dunks. Nate Robinson had some ridiculous ones. Dwight Howard had some ridiculous ones, pulling out the Superman outfit and everything.
Of course.
But then last year, Blake Griffin just comes out, puts his entire forearm down into the rim and just hangs there on his elbow, jumps over the car, with Baron Davis tossing the ball out of the car.
The thing I just thought of when you said hanging on the rim, all I thought of was Elmer Fudd from Space Jam when he dunked the ball and he has the Michael Jordan tongue going out and he just hangs there with his tongue sticking out, staring at the camera. I don't know why I got that image, but I want to see Blake Griffin do that one time. Stick the tongue and just stare at the camera while hanging on the rim.
How did you think of that? Just from me saying
elbow because he just held on to the rim and just. With the tongue sticking out, he did the Jordan pose and everything, and that's all I remember. Space Jam reference.
I do remember that, Yay, childhood.
Space Jam is a great movie. But nonetheless, boo you, Blake Griffin, for not defending your title.
That's all I wrote on my sheet. Boo.
Truth.
Next
boo
week,
this man.
Be sure to join us next week, hopefully, if there's not an OAC tournament game, as we will be talking about the Slam Dunk Contest. Hopefully.
We're going to talk about Space Jam, too?
Probably not.
We should.
No.
We should make a Space Jam section.
Vince, be quiet. We need a soundbite.
Undivided.
As it is time for our second 5 Undivided topic of the night, Floyd Mayweather, yes, the boxer, speaking basketball, as he is saying, as quoted, that Jeremy Lin is a good player, but all the hype is because he's Asian. Black players do what he does every night and don't get the same praise. He said that on his Twitter account Monday. Really, Mayweather, why are you saying something like this? It's the reason I think that the only reason he's getting all this hype is because last year he did pretty much nothing for the Warriors, got cut, and then he's riding the bench all season long. Then Mel gets hurt, the Knicks need a point guard, they put him in, and he just goes off. So really, why you got to be a downer?
Part of it is the race factor of coming in, being the first Asian American player ever. You come in and you look at some of there's a subtle tone of that coming in. That's why he's getting a lot of that hype. But you also take a look at, like you said, his rise of how he came, where he came from, and everything, and how well he's played. That it's a combination of those things. The very slight undertone, but it doesn't have. I don't think it's the main focus of it. And he's making that. Yeah, okay, cool. That there's black guys who do the same thing every day. Yeah, but this is a kid who comes from being undrafted, cut twice in a 16-day span. Comes out and plays, and doing that, that's amazing. Considering where he came from, too, Harvard is not known as a basketball school. So something like that, where you're comparing him to something, you just can't compare like that. Just be quiet, Floyd Mayweather. You're going to jail soon. Just keep your mouth shut and keep your profile low.
Yeah, and he's had some pretty ignorant comments before. But all right, but either way, let's look at Jeremy Lin. Regardless of ethnicity, he's had the greatest first 4 or 5 games ever. I mean,
in NBA history, literally.
In NBA history, literally. I mean, you can't take that away from him. You literally can't say that anyone's ever done that because they haven't. So you can't say people do this all the time because they don't. But either way, I think it's good to look at his diversity. Yeah, he's the first Asian American player to ever be this successful, and I think it should be celebrated.
Yes.
I mean, and you look at it in this article, they're talking about in his last 5 games before the last couple, he's averaging 27 points a game and 8 assists. And it's just ridiculous the numbers that he's been putting up.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks needed a true point guard. You know, he only had 10 points last night, but he still had a career high 13 assists. Now, granted, it's like a 7-game career.
He decided not. He just sorry to interrupt you, but he decided not to shoot. He was like, I'm gonna pass around. He goes, I think it's actually worse when I shoot more.
Yeah, he was 4 or 6 in the field, so he was still shooting a very good percentage. But I mean, nonetheless, I think it was just very distasteful of Floyd Mayweather. I mean, you know, there are things that can be said. I mean, yes, it's obvious that he's getting some focus for the fact that he's an Asian American, and he is right now the only known Asian American in the NBA, and it's obvious to everybody. But that's a comment you don't have to make. You know, oh well, black guys do this every day. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Look at the NBA. It's mainly what it's comprised of. You don't have to make a point of it and make such a kind of a rude comment towards an up-and-coming player who really doesn't know any better. He's just now getting into the league. He just now got off of Landry Fields' couch. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it was just very unprofessional of Floyd Mayweather, but not exactly surprising coming from him because he's done some unprofessional things in the past.
If you look, I'm just going to use the comparison of the NHL real quick. When Jerome McGinley was playing really well in the NHL, it's not like it would be ridiculous if somebody came out and was like, oh, well, Canadians and white players do this all the time. You know, it should be celebrated. I mean, okay, good for you. You don't have to tear people down about it.
Exactly.
And now adding on to it, since we still got a couple of minutes left, I was watching Bomani Jones and Stephen A. Smith go at it.
Oh, Stephen A.
Where was
No, it wasn't Stephen A. Smith.
Skip Bayless?
No.
Michael Smith?
Michael Smith, yeah. Thank you, Ryan.
Gotcha.
I knew it was a Smith guy. He's on around the horn quite a bit.
Okay.
They were having a debate, and they're talking about why is it any different for Jeremy Lin to be doing this and he getting all this talk when Russell Westbrook does the same exact thing. You know, they get about 20-plus points a night, so many assists, and they both turn the ball over a lot. But when they were arguing about this, they didn't really make the point, at least in my mind, Russell Westbrook is expected to do this night in and night out. We saw that with the big contract that he just got from the Thunder. And Jeremy Lin is making the league minimum, $700,000 a year. So why are we making such a big deal about this?
Lin's even projected to have the turnovers. Westbrook is not supposed to have the turnovers. If anything, Westbrook is failing in that category.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
Lin is also the 3rd player to ever play in the NBA from Harvard. The last one was in 1955.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Russell Westbrook. He was drafted in the top 10. He was a lottery pick the year he was drafted.
Went to UCLA.
Jeremy Lin, seriously, a storied college basketball college. But then Jeremy Lin, undrafted, D-League for a while. He actually had a triple-double in the D-League. They showed a highlight of that yesterday morning on SportsCenter. And he is proving what everybody else thought he couldn't do. And I think that's a great story.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're making the comparison of him and Tebow. It's like, that's a whole other story.
No, stop it.
I will get real fired up if we start talking about that. So we're not.
Stop that.
Yeah. Thank you, Coach Ditka. Stop it.
Stop it.
Moving on, back to college football.
Hey, Coach,
we alluded to
Valentine's Day. Stop it.
Vince, be quiet.
Yeah.
Moving back to college football, we alluded to it a little bit earlier. West Virginia settled with the Big East finally, and they're going to join the Big 12 in July. They've already got their schedule out. They will, I believe it was Oklahoma is traveling up to Morgantown, but my big one, they have to travel down to Austin.
Yeah, actually they are initially favored to win the Big 12. Kind of a surprise right there. But again, this is the Big East losing people, and after we saw how messy this went to because the Big East now decided to hike up their exit fees because they don't want people to leave, and West Virginia was like, well, bleep you, we're going to leave anyways, so we're coming through, we're going to play that. But yeah, kind of a surprise, saw it on ESPN.com. West Virginia is projected to win the Big 12. currently, but their style kind of fits in with what the Big 12 does. Their spread offense, move the ball around, high-octane offense,
crappy
sometimes
defenses.
Leaky defense, that type of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how they compare with these guys. That going and traveling over to Austin, the likes of those places, is going to be interesting to watch. Much like how Nebraska travels to Wisconsin, Ohio State in their first year.
It is weird. I think the thing that disturbs me most about all the realignment with conferences is that I don't have a good picture in my head of what each conference represents. I used to have an image of like the Big 12 was sort of, not Midwest, more like West, like, Texas, Oklahoma, even Nebraska.
The Big 12 used to be just like straight up the middle in the Midwest. You get Texas,
Tornado
Oklahoma.
Alley, basically.
Yeah. And then you had Colorado in there, which was
kind of weird. But still, I still had that geographic position.
They were still
all
there,
the conferences used to be, with the exception of the WAC and Conference USA, which, they're legitimate because they're Conference USA. They're allowed to be all over the place. But the WAC having Louisiana Tech in it, don't know why.
That makes sense.
Other than that, though, they used to be geographically located, but now it's just all over the place.
Yeah, now I don't even know what the Big 12. You know what should happen? The Big 10 and the Big 12 should make the Big 22.
They thought about that.
Have they really thought about that?
And there was discussion that they would combine, because if Texas left, they would probably join. They would either go independent or they would join the Big 10, and they would take people with them, and they would instantly dominate the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not exactly surprising for West Virginia to be projected to win the Big 12 because the Big 12 is kind of a depleting conference right now. You look at that. They're the two big teams last year. Sorry, Billy, to dog on your Longhorns, but they really weren't that good last year. And then Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, the top two teams in the entire conference. Oklahoma State loses their senior quarterback and arguably the best wide receiver in the nation in Justin Blackman and Brandon Whedon. Yeah. And then Oklahoma, Landry Jones coming back, but no Ryan Broyles. He threw more picks than completions without Ryan Broyles there. So two down teams in West Virginia, a lot of young guys, great offense. I can see why they're looking good in the Big 12.
You know what, Ryan? I don't mind you saying the Longhorns were down last year because I know they were, but I still stick by them.
I'm a Rams fan. I'm sorry.
Why do you like Texas, Billy?
I don't know. I've said over and over again.
It's just one of those affections that he has.
That's fair.
I think I might have been a big Texas player in a past life or something.
It's like his love for cake. It's just there.
That was a good defense. I'm glad that you didn't try and you're like, you know what? I don't know. Just like him. I appreciate that, Billy.
Honestly, don't. Thought I would never like Texas after Ohio State.
It's just like when you just randomly like a certain player. It just happens.
I liked the Rams jerseys when I was 4 years old. Stuck with them ever since.
There you go.
Nonetheless, moving on back to the NFL. A couple of big name players have had things happen recently. The Bucs released Albert Haynesworth, as he was due like $7 million or something like that. Not that he's worth it or anything. And Ricky Williams retires for the second time, maybe this time for good.
Yeah, probably for good. I'm not surprised. Well, first of all, being a running back is never a very long career. I mean, you get so beat up. It's not, I'm surprised that he's even lasted this long, that he even came back after his first retirement.
He left 3 years, so his body is much better than
Well,
others.
yeah, I understand, but I mean, regardless, you go through some serious damage to your body that's generally permanent for the most part. I mean, any player in the NFL, I mean, it beats you up pretty good, especially that position. Not really surprised about Haynesworth. I mean, we've heard stories and anecdotal evidence from over the last few years. There was that time when he didn't make weight at training camp, and then he couldn't run his sprints and all this. So I'm not really surprised that he got cut. And I guess none of these surprised me.
Yeah,
my overall feeling.
Haynesworth is a very uncharacteristic player. You never know when his ego is going to get in the way, and he's always about the money. But I think the thing that doesn't surprise me the most, though, is Ricky Williams retiring. Because he was a backup at Baltimore. He was going for the ring, didn't get it. And now he and his girlfriend, Mary Jane Hemp, can go have fun in the offseason now that he's retired.
So I'm actually kind of surprised at Ricky Williams' retirement. For the simple fact, Ricky Williams is one of those guys, he was a backup, but he loved Baltimore. He loved working with Ray Rice. He got his 400 career touchdowns or whatever it was, or yards. He broke a barrier, broke a record. I don't remember what it was, but
9,000 career yards.
Maybe that was it.
10,000 career
10,000.
yards.
That's it. Correct. For some reason, I was thinking 400. I don't know why, but
Jeez, that'd be a record.
He did, and he was one of the guys. He said he wanted to be back next year, but Ricky always flip flops and just jumps around. So I was slightly surprised at his retiring. Albert Haynesworth, not surprised. Both of these players are guys who had probably enormous potential and could have been the best at their positions, but Haynesworth is too lazy and money driven and just a bad attitude. And Ricky Williams his heart was never fully into it.
Personality gets in the way.
Yeah.
You know what? It is that time of the night.
Whoa. What's that?
Exactly. I created that.
Wait, whoa.
Was
Who created that?
Was that?
Oh, you bet it was me.
Okay, I thought literally for a minute you said that on air, and I was like,
No, there's just something random going on. You guys can't see. No, we recorded that earlier.
Why is there a spring boingy noise?
do that
in there?
again. Wait,
Play it again.
All right, hold on a second. Let me get there.
that was amazing.
You know, I wanted to get a soundbite for this because we're talking about unknown sports, and
Whoa. What's that?
I like that. I like
it
that.
just seemed pretty to have that.
Great.
Nonetheless, we're going to try and implement a segment where we talk about sports that are unknown to us here in America. And the sport we were talking about tonight, Vince and I have heard a little bit about it. Ryan knows some about it because I showed him a video earlier.
My goodness.
I know something about it. Don't leave me out of this.
Yeah,
also
wait, he's the one who
website.
found this website.
It is
that I'm checking
called
out right now.
It is called Sepak Takraw. It is very big in Southeast Asia. And Sepak is kick in Malay, and Takraw is the ball in Thai. Now, the way this works is
Kicks the ball.
It's 3-on-3, and they play on a badminton court, and you kind of play it like volleyball, only the use of hands are not permitted. These guys use their feet, and some of the things that they do is crazy.
It's a very small ball. I'm on the Sepak Takraw website, and it's got all these like flashing lights going around while this guy's in the air, basically bicycle kicking.
If you're listening near a computer, you need to immediately go to www.sepaktakraw.org.
You spell it Sepak Takraw is spelled SEPAKTAKRAW. So you click that. So you go on here and immediately there's this guy who does this cool thing. You click the enter site and there's this dude in frozen bicycle kick. Everyone from soccer knows that, with flashing blue and green light streams behind him kicking this ball. And it says, "Welcome to Sepak Takraw, Fight Gravity." And they've got World Cup, Super Series, rankings, news down at the bottom, media, and what it's about, international footprint, heritage, how it's played, all sorts of stuff. So this game, like Billy said, volleyball net, you kick the ball over. It's a small hard ball. It's got like little air pockets in it. You could imagine think of a wiffle ball, only bigger, and you're kicking it.
The ball is made of plastic, and the way the ball is like 170 grams to 190 grams, and the size of its perimeter is 40 centimeters. And it's just completely. But let me get this in real quick. The player jumps is like the highlight of the game is when the player jumps as much as his height and the high state, and the ball struck by the spike, like acrobatics and hatched, and the speed is said to be about 140 kilometers an hour.
I watched a guy do a backflip while kicking this ball over the net and scoring a point for his team.
There's a picture right here of a guy trying to head it while a foot is coming at his face. Okay, so the first line of this whole thing is in the about is often described as a spectacular blend of volleyball, football, martial arts, and gymnastics. Sepak Takraw is, in reality, a sport unlike any other. Astonishingly visceral and explosive, it is one of the toughest games in the world. Demanding lightning reflexes, precise control, and fearless, gravity-defying leaps, Sepak Takraw delivers some of the most intense sporting action. And we've seen highlights of these guys. They're playing just like random music in the background, but these guys literally leaping in the air and doing kicks. You know how hard it is in regular soccer to do a bicycle kick and jump in the air and do it? Imagine doing this over and over again and kicking a ball up. It's ridiculous.
And just to add to that a little bit, the United States team is actually number 12 in world rankings.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Thailand
sweet.
And Malaysia are both tied at number 1, unsurprisingly.
It's the most athletic sport I have ever seen.
Do we feel... Well, we should see if Dr. Toma should go and coach that American team. Maybe we can bring them up to number 1.
I don't know, but Ryan and I were watching a YouTube video of them, and they did not look like they were doing any good earlier.
Oh, no, they were not putting a hand to the Thailand or Malaysia teams.
It was India that they were playing.
That's true. Yeah,
India's right up there.
I mean, not surprising.
Nonetheless, though, that is our new addition to the show.
I like it.
We'll try and have a sport each and every week for
We
you.
can discuss it with Dr. Toma. He knows all these random sports that nobody knows about.
That is true, but moving on to our next topic to try and get back on track here. College basketball. Perry Jones III was suspended. It was announced that he was going to be suspended for the first 5 games this season. Last year, he decided to come back and really not having that great of a season. You know, did pretty well last year, doing about the same this year when it was thought that he would actually be so much better this year. How smart was it for him to come back for another season?
I think it was stupid. You know, I respect him very much for wanting to come back to school. You know, I respect anybody that does. But from a talent standpoint, it was dumb because he was projected top 5 last year in the NBA draft, you know. And he's a kid of very good character. He's 6'11", can shoot from the perimeter, very athletic guy for Baylor. Him and Quincy Acey dominate the post for these Baylor Bears this year, top 10 ranked team, and they're doing very well. Perry Jones, great athlete, and he's an NBA talent, you know. He's very tall. He plays the four post very well, and he can shoot from the perimeter, tough to defend. But this season, nothing. He has not had quite the production he's had, not even half the production from last season.
I don't have a problem with this for two facts. One, he was suspended the first 5 games, and while they did ridiculously good and he comes back and plays, if he's doing half his production, it's still pretty dang good. And you're looking at it as he got suspended the first 5 games. It's kind of like the same situation where Tressel made them promise that those people would come back, and then half of that went downhill. But if you take a look at the other way, so he doesn't want to go out on a sour note at college. He wants to come in, he wants to play a full season and do well. The other fact, there's a lockout. We knew a lockout was coming. This wasn't like something that may happen or not. We knew the lockout was happening. Why would you, if you got at least 5 things, you at least got 5 minutes or 5 game suspension, you could still come in and play before it starts.
Steve, you have anything to add?
Hey, the bell rang, all right? It's good.
Hey, just asking.
I was just going to comment on the fact that Ryan's like, well, I support anybody who goes back to school, except for this guy in this one situation, because it doesn't make sense.
But, I mean, it's true, though. I mean, I respect him for wanting to get an education, but he's just not performing this year.
No, you play basketball, you don't get education.
His mom would hate me for that.
I think any athlete's mother in Division I sports
We're going to send that
like
guy who went to Alabama instead of LSU, we're going to send his mother after you.
Be grounded from the show.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Alabama.
Auburn.
It was
Was it Auburn?
No,
I
it
thought
was Clemson.
Alabama.
It's Clemson, wasn't it?
Clemson and Auburn were the
The guy who she said LSU #1, he went to Alabama and the follow a girl. That's what I'm talking about.
That one.
She's gonna go
I was thinking the Chick-fil-A
No.
dude that we
No,
talked about.
different guy.
Nonetheless, next topic of the night is last 5 undivided. We're talking about the Mel Kiper's mock draft 2.0. As you look at it, up and down the first few picks of the draft, Indianapolis projected to take Andrew Luck #1. Can't blame him from there. Every time that there's a once-in-a-generation quarterback, Indianapolis just seems to do horrible when they get him. They got John Elway, traded him away to the Broncos, got Peyton Manning, now Andrew Luck. Coincidence? I think not. Nonetheless, they got the St. Louis Rams taking Justin Blackman at #2, Minnesota taking Matt Khalil at #3, our beloved Browns, well, not Steve's.
3 out of the 4.
You mean #4?
Robert Griffin, #4, whatever. They got him taking Robert Griffin III from Baylor. #5, Tampa Bay taking Trent Richardson. And you look up and down this, there's really not too many big surprises. The biggest surprise for me is, where'd he go?
Number 19.
I lost it. Yeah,
Mike Adams.
Yeah.
Well, we all know why you hate Mike Adams, so let's
it's not
not
that
go into it.
It's not that I hate Mike Adams. It's just that I cannot see him being a first-round pick.
We know you don't like it. We don't need to discuss it again.
Yes,
ahead,
you know
Steve.
about it.
I'm of the strong belief that you should always, if you're not a successful team, I think you should always pick a lineman on either side of the ball, which is why I was really surprised that he has the Browns picking RG3 for quarterback, especially when you've sort of developed Colt McCoy into this quarterback and he's sort of getting some reps. You can't switch around that much. They had Brady Quinn for a little bit, and then they had the other guy who I can't remember from the MAC, Akron player. What was his name?
Charlie Fry.
They had Charlie. I mean, you can't just keep rotating quarterbacks and expect your savior to come in the form of a quarterback. You got to develop your line. So I was really surprised that he put the Browns. Although I think the Browns will pick him because they're not a smart organization.
If you look at the Browns' offensive line, you had one injury that messed up that line, and that's a problem because they were considered, the offensive line was considered probably one of the best in the NFL.
2 Pro Bowlers
at the
and
time.
Alex Mack and Joe Thomas on that left
You
side.
also had Steinbach, who probably should have been a Pro Bowler after seeing that. But I kind of agree that I don't think Griffin will be around by that. I'm kind of surprised at #2, Justin Blackman going to the Rams. I understand that they need him, but they have a terrible left tackle right now. They need to move him to the right side, get Khalil. Khalil's right there. He's considered a ready-to-start guy to go right in there. I mean, the Vikings could use him too, but I mean, Blackman would go there. Look for, as soon as free agency is done shaking out, look for Washington or Miami to jump up. I just don't see Cleveland. They're saying Cleveland have to go up to 2 or 3 in order to get Griffin, and I don't see Cleveland wrapping up both of their first-round picks to get this guy. I know Holmgren's of the thought of, hey, if you don't have your quarterback, you don't have your quarterback. You need to go get people, but come on. That's just too much to give up. I want both my first-round picks. If we get a wide receiver and maybe another lineman, like a right guard or something.
I was going to say, I think a bigger priority than quarterback right now would be getting a solid wide receiver.
Well, that's where they have Kendall Wright, who put up numbers similar to Blackman during the year. He's a fast guy, and he could spread that out a little bit, which would be nice.
You see, here's what I can actually see happening on draft day. You got Washington sitting there at #6, Miami sitting there at #9. Both of them need a quarterback desperately because Washington, they're not going to go anywhere with Grossman, and Miami's
going to get Flynn, though.
I've had hope for Chad Henne because I like Chad Henne, even though he went to Michigan. I think that he could be a good quarterback, but I've given up on him down maybe. I see one of those two teams trading up with St. Louis and taking RG3 at #2, and then that leaves Justin Blackman to fall right to the Browns. But will that actually happen? I don't know.
I mean, Vince, you were talking about my beloved Rams. with Justin Blackmon, and you look at it. You said they need a lineman. Well, their last 6 of their last 7 years, other than number 1 pick Sam Bradford, their first round pick has either been an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman.
It's been mostly defensive lineman.
And a lot of failed. They had Alex Barron, he was a little bit of a failed prospect on left tackle, not too good. They had Adam Carrickrew, who was actually, I don't know what team he plays for now, but it's
I think he plays for the Skins.
Yeah,
plays for the Skins. He's good.
And he's good now after he left the Rams organization, but I think that Justin Blackmon would be a great pick for them there. But the interesting thing that I really, really like is Whitney Mercilus, the DN for Illinois, going number 20 at Tennessee, because he led the FBS in sacks with 16 sacks as a junior in the past season, 22.5 tackles for loss. I mean, the guy is a monster. He's a fast guy off the end, and Tennessee, losing Vanden Bosch, they need that guy, and they've been a team kind of floating around contention for the playoffs the past couple years, and that defense could really be bolstered.
Real quick, which is interesting here, again, with Pittsburgh, you're thinking, hey, let's draft an offensive lineman, someone to protect Roethlisberger. No, we're going to go with a defensive tackle because we love drafting those guys, which would be helpful with Hampton, though, because Hampton's going to retire. This is a true defensive tackle guy, and you don't have to put Ziggy Hood in a defensive tackle, which is not his position.
Best name in the NFL.
The thing, though, is why would you take the Poe from Memphis when you got Devin Steele and Jarrell Worthy still there? Those two are monsters that came out of the Big Ten this year. I just can't believe that those two guys are going that far down.
From what they said, Poe is the classical defensive tackle that would fit into that Steelers system. From what I've read, he's the guy that out of any of them he would fit that system the best, and that would allow them Hayward and Hood to play in their natural positions.
We'll just have to wait until draft day to find out.
Sorry, I cut off your Steeler rant, but I figured it'd be better than you going for 5 minutes.
We'll be talking about the draft as it approaches in April. Nonetheless, moving on back to the NBA, Kyrie Irving finally returns, although it wasn't too long of a miss after he missed 3 games with a concussion. And that's great news for the Cavs as they were able to knock off the Pacers last night.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the Cavs this year, surprisingly. As I've said many times in this show, I'm a complete fair-weather Cleveland Cavaliers fan. If they're doing good, I watch them. If they're not, I don't really care. But it's good for them that Kyrie Irving's coming back. He's really surprised me this year at how effective he's been. I was skeptical. I mean, you only play 14 college games. He gets hurt. I was a little bit, I thought they should have picked the guy from Arizona.
Derek Williams.
Derek Williams, there we go. I thought they should have picked him. I think he would have been a little bit better. But sort of looking at the season so far, I think Irving's done really a nice job, and he you could build a team around him, I think, now.
Yeah, Irving is one of those guys who I was kind of with you. I was like, oh, he'd be great, and then like 14 games, I'm like, that's kind of weird. I don't know. And then, we got the number 1 overall pick. I'm like, all right, we're going to pick Irving because we need it. And I was like, but we already have a point guard, Baron Davis. And I realized, wait, I was talking about Baron Davis. That was a terrible decision.
We were all kind of disappointed, too, because the Cavs got the number 1 pick in such an off draft year, too.
And that was the thing. They said it was probably one of the worst drafts. And this is turning out to be probably one of the best drafts that's come through. These rookies have really surprised everybody. And Kyrie Irving leading the way. He's already got a game-winning shot. I think even before LeBron got his game-winning shot for the Cavs.
Yeah, you talk about the number 1 picks for the Cavs that they've had, be it LeBron and Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's producing better than LeBron at, the point guard position is one of the most important positions in the NBA because they are the quarterback of the floor, and he's got great ball handling, and he's got great court vision. He sees passes that a lot of players don't see, and for a rookie, he plays a lot like a veteran, and he's leading that team in a very, very tough division right now with, you look at the Bulls, best record in the NBA, and the Pacers coming up strong too. I mean, the Pacers are having a great year out of nowhere, and great win last night against the Pacers, but he's doing a great job for them, and they have a nice-looking young team.
Yeah, that they do. And, I was with Steve, and I know I was talking to Ryan about this before the show. I wasn't too big on him taking Kyrie Irving because I thought he might be a little bit of a bust, but, they took him. He's turned out pretty good, so, I like
Could have been a cheer of the week, I think, for this.
It would have, what would have been nice, too, if they had won the game when we were there.
Yeah, but they didn't have Kyrie, so that's why I blame it on.
It's hockey time.
2 free throws.
Jameson.
Yeah, that should have been our jeer. Antoine Jameson, learn how to shoot a free throw. Nonetheless, it is hockey time, and the Red Wings have set an NHL record with 21 straight home wins, and they have not lost at home since November 3rd when Calgary knocked them off, and since then they've just been on a tear. Zetterberg has been playing out of his mind, and a goalie that no one has ever heard of, he's like the Jeremy Lin of hockey right now, is playing lights out.
Yeah, I mean, you really think about it, does anyone really surprised at this? With the Red Wings, you're like, it's the Red Wings. They're Hockey Town. They're trying to take that Hockey Town title back.
I'm a little surprised. I mean, usually I'm pretty dismissive of streaks in hockey in general.
But this is impressive. But like, if you had to name one team that would say this is a 21 home winning streak, the only two, maybe three that I can think of: Chicago, because Chicago's got a great nucleus, Pittsburgh. And that's only with Crosby there.
And a few Pittsburgh a few years ago.
Yeah.
When they played Detroit back to back.
Everyone healthy, and then, a good solid team.
And then Detroit. And out of the three, I would think Detroit would be the best one, followed by Pittsburgh of the few years ago. But I mean, it's still extremely impressive. That is a great culture, a great organization, and that's great that you have, particularly at home, which is one of the hardest environments. It's an old arena. It's one of those where the fans kind of sit on top of you. They used to throw octopus whenever they would get a hat trick.
They still throw octopuses.
They're not allowed anymore. Actually,
Octopi.
It's actually been told they can't do that anymore. They don't.
Yeah, we know what they were carrying an octopus off the ice the other night.
They were throwing fake ones, and they've been throwing fake ones recently. But still, good job.
Vince, the other thing is, I don't know if I agree with you saying that it's a difficult place to play. I mean, I guess for other teams, but if it's your home arena, it's your home arena.
No, that's what I meant for
other
visiting.
Okay.
It's
I thought you were saying
saying
that it was a good achievement because it's so hard for the Red Wings to win at home, and I was like, that's a little weird.
It's one of those where the fans on top of you. It's a hard environment to come in and win against these guys.
So you're diminishing the Red Wings' achievement.
At the same time, I'm saying, I was giving an example talking about the Jove. It's one of those things, but I said my point was, if you would be surprised if you had to pick one team, it would be the Red Wings because of how their arena is, because of those things. I said I'm not as surprised by this.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you think of something, a couple years ago, if you were to say the Boston Celtics had a winning streak at home, Boston, every sports team in Boston loves it, or the Red Sox at Fenway, or the Yankees at Yankee Stadium, teams with historic fan bases, great places to play, the Red Wings have that for hockey, and they're like the poster child of hockey, and they are playing really well, and they've played well at home and everywhere for the past couple of years.
It's just like kickers in Pittsburgh Stadium, particularly at the open end.
You have to defend your home turf, ice, court, field, whatever it is.
Sepak Takraw court.
And that's
whatever it's called.
And that's exactly what Detroit has been doing this
Cricket
year.
pitch.
Moving on, it's time for our picks here tonight. First pick of the night, number 6, Ohio State, traveling up to Ann Arbor to take on number 19, Michigan.
It's going to be a great matchup. I still don't think Michigan can match up, though. I'm going to go with Ohio State.
I got to pick the Bucks, too. I'm very disappointed after the loss to Michigan State, but I'll say...
You think they'll be a little angry?
Yeah, I think they'll be angry, and they'll be fired up. It is going to be difficult to go into Ann Arbor and win.
The place is going to be insane.
Especially after our big discussion about how big home field advantages for any team in any sport, but I'm still going to pick Ohio State in this one.
It would be treason against my soul to pick the team up north. So, I mean, Buckeyes have it all the way. They're a much better team, a lot more solid core down on the post.
Much better team, yes. Much better when they're on the road? No. I got to go with Michigan this game.
Ugh, you said the name. Why'd you say the name?
No,
Buford has been terrible on the road all season long.
22 points, though, and 2 games ago.
On the road?
Yeah.
Who are they playing?
Purdue.
Okay. But nonetheless, though, all season long, you look at it, Buford has been terrible on the road. Kansas,
Sully
Indiana.
Very true.
They've just been terrible on the road.
They would have won if Kansas had Sully been in there.
It's like it's the big house up there for basketball. So,
are you writing these down? We said we're going to start keeping track.
I am writing them down.
He's got them. Okay.
Yes, I got it. Moving on.
Well, you're going to lose your first pick.
I hope I miss this one.
Okay.
But no, I'm just going with my gut there.
Understandable.
And never mind.
Just keep going.
Next pick, San Antonio and the Clippers. Good matchup. San Antonio, the hottest team in the NBA right now, and the Clippers, pretty good as well.
Gonna be a good matchup. It is at home and at the Staples Center, which has become the Clippers' home court, not the Lakers anymore. That being said, I'm gonna go with San Antonio with Tony playing out of his mind.
Tony
Vive
who?
la France!
Yeah.
Tony who?
I forget
Parker.
his last name. Thank you, Parker. And so
at least you can get the first name, unlike me, who I'm like that guy from Arizona, that guy from this school,
Mexa something.
You got the school right. I'll give you a little bit of credit
Buttinger.
for that.
Chase
Chase Buttinger.
Chase Buttinger, one of the participants in the dunk contest this year.
Yes.
Nonetheless, Steve, make your pick.
Okay, so my picks, since they actually count for things now and that we're not just, randomly spouting out picks that don't matter anymore, since we're going to be keeping track and we'll have bragging rates and whatnot, I've decided to base my picks on the Las Vegas odds. So San Antonio... No, it's a good idea because they're the ones who have the most to lose. If you're going to make a pick based on the Las Vegas odds, because there's a huge money on the line, so I'm going to say San Antonio because they're a 2.5 point favorite.
I like the way the Spurs are playing right now, but this season is going to take a toll on them being an older team. Clippers, a lot of talent, home, Staples Center. I like the Blake Show to win this one.
I agree with Ryan. I just think that
it's Lob City, not the Blake Show anymore.
I just think that with Blake, Jordan, Paul, it's going to be too much for the much older Pistons. Wow. Spurs to handle. Next pick, the Dallas Mavericks world champs taking on the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden.
Going to be another good matchup, but I think the Knicks pull it out. It's at home. They've been revitalized. Is this the game where Melo comes back?
I think so.
Okay, that'll be interesting to see what happens.
It's on Sunday.
That might throw a little bit of a wrench in it, but I still think the Knicks pull it out.
See, I think because Melo's coming back, it's going to throw a wrench in the system. They've been playing good with Jeremy Lin, but I think that now that Melo comes back, he's going to get a little selfish. He's going to try and get some more points.
That's the interesting thing, though. When he's had a good point guard, he's been ridiculous. When Chauncey Billups was there, and he was still Chauncey Billups and not the guy that looks like Chauncey Billups but is too old to play, he did really well. He passed the ball. He was looking around. When he doesn't have a point guard, someone who facilitates the ball and moves around for him,
that's
he plays
true. I think that's
stuff.
true down the stretch, but I think that this first transition game, Melo's going to want to come back and put up points, so he's going to play more selfish and not do so well. So I think the Mavericks are going to win this one.
He's going to get booed out of the arena if he does that.
I think last night they showed against Milwaukee that they can play with Stoudemire. And, Jeremy Lin and Stoudemire, great combo. Lin, 13 assists. He was being unselfish, even without Carmelo there. So he's okay with dishing the ball to Carmelo. I mean, all they do is Lin, so I'm going to go with the Knicks at home.
How about Tyson Chandler and Lin? How well they work together with those pick and rolls and everything. It was
the oops were great.
It's like J.J. Barea and Chandler when they were in Dallas. Barea just running around. He's the same size as my dad.
Yes,
J.J.
but Vince,
Barea,
you are taking too much time here.
No, we have plenty of time. We got 5 minutes.
No, we don't. You shush.
We got 5 minutes.
Vince, shush. I will turn off your mic again. Mm-hmm. Don't think I will.
I'll go over here then.
I'll shut that one off. I'm going to take the Knicks in this one. I think that Melo coming back won't be as selfish right now, but once the spotlight starts going over to Lin even more with Melo back, I think that is going to cause some problems. But then our next pick of the night, hockey, with the Penguins and the Flyers. No interesting hockey games to me this weekend or anything, so in-state rivalry.
Always an interesting matchup. Both teams go at it. I think currently Philly's 2 or 3 seed right now in the East. Going to be a great matchup, but I unfortunately I'm going to have to pick Philadelphia. I just don't see how Pittsburgh's going to pull this one out, particularly once at Philly.
Well, Pittsburgh's still kind of fighting for second place in their division, but I just based on my being a fan, I'm going to have to pick the Penguins.
Yeah, I mean, same here.
Wait,
I'm a fan of Pittsburgh.
What happened to your Vegas odds pick?
I couldn't. This game was too far out. I could only pick. Well, originally I had 2 because it was going to be Dallas at Philly, but then Billy changed it at the last minute, so I couldn't find odds for. I could only find odds for San Antonio and the Clippers. So,
but
kind of fell
go
apart.
Pens. Go Pens.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Flyers just over there, home ice. It's hard to win anywhere when you're on the road, so I know, not very good reasoning.
Yeah, it's better than mine. I just said I like the Penguins.
Hey, whatever.
I'm just not feeling it tonight. College basketball, number 16, St. Mary's taking on number 14, Murray State. Murray State finally got knocked off their pedestal with their first loss of the season.
Murray State. I think they have to win the rest of these games. They could go in with 2 losses, but still, it just would not look good if they lose to St. Mary's, even though they're number 16. Going with Murray State.
I'm thinking Murray State. I think both these teams match up pretty well against each other, both 14 and 16. I'm not following Murray State, St. Mary's basketball on a good basis. I don't have a whole lot to base this on, but I'm going to say Murray State just because they're at home.
Murray State's one of those teams. They're like Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
They are.
Murray State, Isaiah Cannon, great point guard. Last night, St. Mary's lost to Loyola Marymount, the basketball powerhouse that they are. So I feel like Murray State, home court, a little bit better of a team. Isaiah Cannon's a good point guard. Murray State at home.
I think St. Mary's wins. I think that they bounce back from that loss to Loyola Marymount, and St. Mary's is a powerhouse out there in California. They are a great basketball team.
Them and Gonzaga.
Gonzaga's up in Washington.
Yeah, but
Nonetheless,
they're
West Coast.
considered West Coast. There you go.
Still. Nonetheless, moving on. Odds makers. What are the odds that we get sick of hearing about Jeremy Lin like we did Tim Tebow?
I'm going to say 0 for the simple fact of the different circumstances they came in. Tebow came in with accolades already. Lin comes in out of nowhere, and I think this story is a little better. He does not cause nearly as much controversy, which is kind of surprising considering Mayweather believes there's controversy.
I think we're going to get sick of it almost instantly just based on how ESPN's been covering it so far. I mean, I'm saying 95% for this because Lin is kind of like Tebow in the fact that there are a lot of things about him that are left to be desired. People they're going to say, oh, he can't do this, he can't do that, and I just don't see him having the I just don't see him keeping it up. I think he's going to fade away pretty quick, but they're going to keep saying, oh, Jeremy Lin's this, he's that. I definitely see the parallel. I can't quite articulate why he's like Tebow, but I definitely think it's there.
I'm going to go with 0% because once the Knicks lose, the Knicks are going to lose. Jeremy Lin's going to be out of the spotlight, but people like his story more. He's more genuine. He was underhyped. as a player and as a person
There's
compared to
the
Tim Tebow.
But it doesn't matter. It's all
And-
the media treats it. If the
Yeah.
media covers it too much, we're gonna be like, all right, geez, Lin, we've already got Lin Sanity, and all they do is win, or Lin over here.
Super Nintendo, my favorite game system.
I'm going to go with about 30%. The thing I want to get sick about is all these terrible puns. I've been seeing terrible puns left and
They
right.
crack
That's all
me
part
up.
of it. See,
They
that's what I'm
crack
saying.
me up.
You see, actually hearing about Jeremy Lin, I don't mind right now, but who knows. Moving on, bonus pick time. Who knocks off the Red Wings at Joe Louis in the upcoming games? Nashville, San Jose, Vancouver, or Colorado?
Vancouver has the best chance. The Dean Twins are very good up front, and they've got a great goalie.
I'm gonna say Nashville because they're in the same division. They've played them the most. They know how to deal with them, and they're most likely to win.
Canucks, Stanley Cup runner-ups last year. Great team. I think Canucks knock them off in the third game.
I think it's going to be San Jose. San Jose is one of those teams that they always play great during the regular season, but then kind of fall apart in the postseason. But I think it'll be the Sharks.
A little more than kind of.
As that'll do things for us here this week on Raiders Zone Weekly. We thank you for joining us, and we hope that you join us again next week, barring any OAC tournament games. But we hope you do join us on Saturday, as we will be here to cover the women's game against Heidelberg and the regular season finale. Not quite sure who's going to be calling the game yet. Most likely Steve and Ryan. But
Billy, hold on a second. I just want to tell you, you're my Linspiration.
See, it's puns like that's going to make me sick of them. But tip-off is scheduled for 3 o'clock, so we hope you join us then. But until then, keep listening to the radio voice of Mount Union, WRMU 91.1.